I now call upon Ms. Karen Kaplan to deliver the commencement address.
Thank you, President Larson. Gloria, which I love that you graduates call her Gloria. That was a very kind introduction. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was actually hoping you were going to go on even longer. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to finally realize my mother's lifelong dream for me of becoming a Jewish doctor. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees, faculty and staff, family and friends, and most importantly, you, the graduates. Give yourselves a hand. And by the way, I am well aware that I'm the only thing standing between you and your diplomas, so as Elizabeth Taylor said to each of her 8 husbands, I won't keep you long. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever needed proof that America is still the land of opportunity, you're looking at it. I graduated from a state school, a French literature major, in the middle of back-to-back recessions. Do we have a French literature major? In the middle of back-to-back recessions in the early 80s, my work experience at the time included babysitting and waitressing, both of which have come in surprisingly handy, and I'm not kidding. When I interviewed for the receptionist position at Hill Holliday, I wasn't so sure I wanted to work there or even in advertising, as much as I wanted to meet the then president, Jack Connors, who had interviewed and rejected 40 candidates before me. And being competitive, I really just wanted to see if I could get the job. I fully intended to go to law school the following year, not necessarily because I wanted to be a lawyer, but really just to postpone the inevitable process of figuring out what I was going to do with my life. And I'm sure there are a couple of you here today who can relate to that. So I took the job as receptionist to pay for law school. But as my boss of 25 years, Jack Connors, likes to tell the story, he never paid me enough to actually go to law school. So here I am 34 years later. When Jack hired me as the receptionist back in 1982, he said, "Congratulations, Karen. You are now the face and the voice of Hill Holliday." And the way he framed the job as the face and the voice of Hill Holliday really gave me pause. I realized then that this wasn't just some job, this was a big responsibility. And because he took it seriously, I took it seriously. I remember thinking, the face and the voice of Hill Holliday, that sounds pretty important. That sounds like something the CEO should be responsible for. And at that moment, I decided I would consider myself the CEO of the reception desk. And then when I was promoted to the next job, I considered myself the CEO of that. And I approached every single job I had the same way. I considered myself the CEO of every job I ever had, every account I ever ran, and every department I ever managed. And I've had the same 16 jobs everybody my age has had. I've just been lucky enough to have had them all at the same company. I raised my hand for every opportunity, and I never let the fact that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing stop me. And along the way, I was recognized and rewarded and allowed to grow, which says more about the specialness and the uniqueness of Hill Holliday than it does about me. So on to the theme of my talk, 9 quick, 1-minute lessons that I believe can help anyone be successful in life while staying true to who you are, or as I like to call it, how to get where you want by being who you are. So here we go. Early on, as receptionist, I realized that I was in the perfect position to study people, and I learned the benefit of paying attention. And I think it's a trait many successful people share, and it's the first lesson I'll share with you today. Originality requires attention. We live in a world where everyone is connected all the time. That's the good news. The bad news is that multitasking has added 6 hours of media time to the average person's day. But we still have only 24 hours in a day, which means we're never fully paying attention to any one thing. Digital natives, you guys, check their phones more than 150 times a day. Yet we live in a world where there is a premium placed on the creation of original ideas. And it's my experience that the act of generating original thought is virtually impossible while you're busy transacting with your head down. So just make sure you pull up every once in a while and pay attention to what's going on around you that can inspire you and fuel your creativity, because the ability to create something original out of absolutely nothing will serve you well in whatever career you choose. The second lesson is to always be confident and optimistic, something that Gloria talked a lot about and has played largely in her successful careers over the years. When I started my career journey, confidence and optimism were all I had. And for me, I knew that they were going to have to be enough. I convinced myself that just because I'd never done something before didn't mean that I couldn't figure it out as easily as the next person. In this country, it doesn't matter where you came from. It only matters where you want to go. And anything truly is possible. I would encourage you all to think of confidence as another word for fearlessness, and as optimism as another word for hope, and approach everything believing you can succeed, and eventually you will. The third lesson is to embrace what makes you different. We are all unique. From an early age, my parents taught me to be proud of my uniqueness, that personal differences can be our competitive advantage in life. That if you know who you are and you're comfortable with who you are, you can very easily turn perceived liabilities into assets. Even today, in 2016, there are plenty of times when I find myself the only woman in a room full of men. But then I think, who are they going to remember? 40 guys in gray suits that all look like seagulls with different colored ties on? Or me? The fourth lesson is no coasting. When I started out in the advertising business, I knew that if I worked a few hours a day longer than everybody else and threw in a couple of hours on the weekends, that in a few years I would pass by people that had a 10-year head start on me. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he writes about people who, for one reason or another, are so accomplished that they are truly outliers. He says that when you ask a successful person why they're successful, they always say it's because they wanted it more, they worked harder, and they sacrificed more. No one ever says it's because they're smarter. Malcolm Gladwell's hypothesis in the book is that talent doesn't matter much. It's all about determination, application, and practice. And that's how he explains the careers of really successful people. He says it takes 10,000 hours, or 10 years, at the rate of 40 hours per week to get really good at something. And the first one to reach 10,000 hours wins. He gives the example of the Beatles, who, before they were discovered, were the house band at a strip club in Hamburg, Germany, playing 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, when most bands only were playing a few quick sets a week. He gives the example of Michael Jordan, whose game continued to improve over the course of his career. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Larry Bird, it's all about deliberate practice and a hunger to succeed. Successful people never coast because they know you only coast one way, and that's downhill. The fifth lesson is to keep your eyes wide open. My mother taught me to be a lifelong learner, to retain the natural curiosity that we all have as children. Successful people are inspired not by how much they know, but by how much they don't know. So they never stop learning, and they give change a big, warm hug. They know they can always be better and do better, and that smart is what you get, not what you are. I believe that our success is measured by our ability to embrace and manage change as individuals and as companies. As CEO, I look for people who are curious, open, and collaborative. More than ever before, I want people who have eclectic varied backgrounds, people who are genuinely interested in the world around them, who have a strong point of view, and who can bring a fresh perspective to their work. I look for people who constantly ask why and why not. I believe that a diversity of experience is the biggest favor you can do for yourself in life. And as CEO, what I care about is who you are and how you see the world. I hire people based on their perspective, not their pedigree, because it's curious people who see the world differently that are the driving force behind most new ideas. The sixth lesson is to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. One of the keys to being successful is finding the right environment that will allow you to succeed. Not every environment is right for every person. I tell people not to be afraid to make a change if they feel their unique talents and contributions aren't being appreciated or acknowledged. The right environment can make a world of difference. The seventh lesson is that today's peacock is tomorrow's feather duster. Growing up, my father always used to tell me that a pat on the back is just 6 inches from a kick in the butt. I used to think that he wasn't being very supportive, but now I realize that he never wanted me to be too impressed with myself or to get too accustomed to success. Truly successful people don't take themselves too seriously, and they remain humble. When they get to the top, they don't forget where they came from. We all know how important it is to be nice to people on the way up, because what goes up eventually comes down. The eighth lesson is to whom much is given, much is required. Never forget how lucky you are, and always reach out to others who deserve just as much. My hope for all of you is that you are blessed with the same good fortune, the same success that I have been blessed with, and that you have the opportunity to pay those blessings forward throughout your lives. Personally, I have found that most people have no idea what they're capable of, and a little bit of love and encouragement goes a long way. So never underestimate the power you have to influence others, and remember that your candle loses nothing when it lights another. Always take the time to think about doing the right thing, not the easy thing, because the right thing and the easy thing are rarely the same thing. And finally, the ninth lesson is you gotta believe. Successful people believe. They believe they don't have to become someone because they already are someone. Successful people believe that tough times don't last forever. They wake up in the morning believing they can and will make a difference. And you know what? They do. Thank you for the honor of addressing you and for allowing me to share this important day with you. I encourage you to go out there and get where you want by being who you are. Congratulations to the class of 2016.